I'm ready.
Let's do this.
Time to farm some dubs. Crap, I got a squad on my right.
I'm running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Oh, sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn. This is the 10th one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
Yeah, I see you. You got him, you got him, you got him! Yes! Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
Guys, I can get used to this.
HyperX alloy, built strong because it has to be.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ORL Season 14, Round 9, as we make our way to France at the Circuit of Paul Ricard. I'm Yusuf Milkasiro bin Sahel, and alongside me is Jacob Alader Hancox. And Jacob, well, France is most certainly going to be a DRS train circuit, like we saw last week at Belgium, which brought some absolutely fantastic racing to the action last week.
Yeah, no, it's interesting actually. Paul Ricard is a circuit that I think does quite well on the game in general. It doesn't do well in real life. Racing tends to suck at this circuit in real life. But in the game, I think it's actually quite fun, or at least it can be sometimes. And also, there's always a decent chance for some rain, which is always nice just to keep your mind guessing.
Now, as some people can probably hear, there is some engine background noise coming through because drivers are making their way into qualifying. But we thought it'd be rude of us to jump into qualifying without at first reminding everyone as to what happened last time out in Belgium. So here you are, Jan Watmeer took the win at Spa-Francorchamps ahead of Danny Haddad. It was a very close battle between them and Fabrizio Donoso, who had a 3-second time penalty at the end. Dario Yamolo took a P4 ahead of Josh Hido and Ben Sabo Koni in P6. Felipe Sousa took P7 ahead of Dormaya Yogla and Shanaka Clay down in P10. And Jacob, that has had some implications for the drivers' standings as well.
Yeah, indeed it has. Jarno Otmir is now quite a way clear at the top. In fact, he's got more than a race win in his pocket, 30 points out in the lead ahead of Daniele Haddad, who, of course, inherited that second position last time out from Donoso. So still just about staying in touch with Jarno Otmir, but Jarno has now won 3 races on the bounce. He's won 4 in total in the 5 or 6 races he's taken part in this season. So if he wins again here, he's getting perilously close to wrapping up the championship.
One man who definitely will be wanting to pick up his form, just like we said last week, is actually Alvaro Caraton, who had that P6 in Bahrain, outside of the top 10 in Brazil due to the late puncture on intermediate tires. P7 China, P9 Japan. It's all gone horribly, horribly wrong for Alvaro, and we know how quick he is. So I'm hoping that here at France, Paul Ricard, he'll be able to turn up the heat a bit and pick up his first podium in a while. But with that said and done, we're going to be heading on into qualifying after a short commercial.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice. And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless? On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing!
The HyperX Cloud 2 wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we jump on into qualifying. Now, Jacob, apparently Dario Muller was on a hot lap, but sadly invalidated.
Yeah, he was going to be the first one to set a lap time, where I was getting all ready to bring everyone back to the first lap time of this qualifying session, but Domenico went and invalidated in turn 8, so now it's Felipe who's going to be up next, the first one to cross the line with a proper lap time. He's managed to keep this one all clean, has the Brazilian in the Haas. On a good run of form lately, so hopefully he can improve that here, and the best way to do that is to get a good lap in for your banker in qualifying. Up towards the line he will come, And that's going to be a 1:26.720, or 7:19 in fact. So we'll now see which drivers are going to be able to challenge that and which aren't. Alessio Di Caprio is actually invalidated, though he did go almost a second faster than Felipe. So watch out for Alessio going further into this session.
Good to see Tomek Poradisha back out on circuit. I don't think he was present last time out in Bahrain, unless I am mistaken. And let's see what he can pull through. Another driver who is making their return to the Online Racing League. I believe their first appearance since season 13, or maybe even all the way back to season 12, is in Nicholas Longway, a driver who I had the pleasure of commentating on back in my first ever ORL race back in season 9 or season 10 in Spain.
Oh, wow, yeah, and you go way back. I don't think I've ever commentated on a race that Nicholas Longue has been a part of, so I'm very much looking forward to the experience. Currently, he's actually going a bit of a different way to many of the other drivers. He's sitting on in the pit lane. A few other drivers are staying in the pits, but not too many. He's also sitting there on medium tyres, whereas everyone else across the board is either waiting in the pits on soft tyres or out on the track on soft tyres. So Nicholas thinking about doing something a little bit different.
I'm just scrolling through the order right now, seeing if anyone is on a lap, and it seems that most drivers have actually invalidated their laps. Pablo Hogla is on a lap, as is Falcon Nardi and Tom97, or at the very least Tom97. And here comes Pablo Hogla through the final corner.
Yeah, Pablo Hogla going to be coming up towards the line here. Let's see what the Spaniard has been able to do. Only 2 goalposts to aim for thus far, and he doesn't manage to get either of them. Behind Getone there by about 1/10 and a half, and that's comfortably behind Felipe as well. So slightly disappointing there for the AlphaTauri driver, but it is interesting. Only 3 lap times set, and we're already a fair few minutes into qualifying here. So plenty of drivers struggling with the track limits, and I'm sure that's going to be a bit of a theme throughout the race and the rest of qualifying as well. Tom97 has managed to keep his lap clean, and we're sort of hoping for him to rather bolster the ranks of those who have actually set lap times by managing to keep this one nice and clean all the way towards the end of this lap. Into the penultimate corner he goes, chucks it in there. Now the final corner, really fiddly one this, but he meets the apex nicely. No hints of a lockup, doesn't run out of road on the exit either. And up towards the line he comes. Where is this going to put him? It's only good enough for 4th. So once again, every driver that comes across the line goes a little bit slower than the last one.
Now, Andy is on a lap, as is Danny Haddad, and I would assume at the very least Danny Haddad will be the first to break the chain of consistently putting in lower laps and maybe spoiling the Haas party, as it is currently a Haas front row lockout, and Andy really used a lot of curb on the exit of turn 9.
Yeah, Andy and Daniel Haddad both going. Andy has actually invalidated that attempt in the Ferrari track, lit up all in red. So Daniele Haddad is going to have to try and do this one. Looked like that was a cut through turn 10 there from Haddad, but he's gotten away with it. Now into 11, always braking later than you think you can get away with into the dip on the apex. I love that dip. It just makes you feel like you're going so fast through there. Now turn 12, one of my least favorite corners in the whole of the F1 calendar. Runs a bit wide on the exit there, and he's actually backed out of this lap, just warming up the tyres once more. Hasn't invalidated, but is just going to be heading straight back into the pits.
Seeing a lot of invalidations right now, Jacob. Still 4 drivers who have been able to set a lap, and we are practically 8 minutes into the session. Ben Sabakonyi is back out on a circuit. Remember, he's sitting down, I think, in a P6 in the championship, P7. So he's going to be wanting to hook up some points today to carry him further on into, or further up the order. Jan Watmir also out on a hot lap.
Ben Sabakonyi, I mean, we heard Daniela Haddad talking last time about how he was first of the humans in that last race. I think Ben Sabakonyi could make a good case for being the first of the humans in terms of the championship, although, I don't know, maybe there's some that would disagree with that. But Ben Sabakonyi, definitely the top non-F1 Esports Pro Series driver.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think it's quite close between the likes of Ben Sabakonyi, Tomeka Poradisha, and Felipe, with the pace that Felipe has been showing off late. Alessio Di Capua as well on a good day. To be honest, Jacob, I'd say that none of them are human, and that's not being rude.
Yeah.
I think they're all just very quick.
Yeah, they are. They are all incredibly quick. And Alessio Di Capua is actually a really good point, because over a lap, I think he is definitely quicker than Ben Sabakonyi at the vast majority of circuits. But Bent has outscored him thus far in the championship, and that's not for no reason. Here comes Bent up towards the line. This isn't going to be a very good lap time at all, though. It's a 1:31.0, so just going for a second push lap in a row, you'd have to imagine. Although he's still down in 0 ERS mode, but he might just be saving that at the beginning of this lap just to make sure that he is going to be able to have the full whack of it throughout the second and third sectors, although he's leaving it a long time to turn that one up. So maybe just, again, not going for another lap straight away, but staying out there. Not really sure what this is all about from Ben Sabokonyi here. I know that the contra strategy is very big around here in France. Not starting on soft tires is a big deal. Being able to have fresh tires at the start of the race, getting a sort of one stop off, is really highly valued. And there's a lot of drivers who haven't left the pits. There's a lot of drivers who have left the pits and they've just gone straight back in. Ben Sabokonyi seems to have done a 131.0 intentionally. I think there might be a bit of gamesmanship going on here, and quite a few drivers holding a lot back in reserve and waiting to see whether they can try and get 11th or even into the top 10 without setting a lap time.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one, Jacob. I think a lot of these lap times are just banker times that we're seeing coming through. Laps that drivers know they can beat if they put on a set of medium tyres, and maybe it's the likes of Felipe and Gaon who run the risk of going out of medium tyres and being unable to improve, and then all of a sudden finding themselves in the top 10 with those softer tyres. And now we are starting to see a lot more yellow icons are popping up on our timing tower.
Indeed, yeah, quite a few more of those yellow icons, as you mentioned, medium tyres being strapped on for a few different drivers. And of course, there's always the possibility as well of there being rain about halfway through the race, and maybe people aren't sure if the soft tyres are going to reach the rain point. We don't know that, of course, so that's all a bit conjecture. But in general, even if it is a dry race, it is very, very valuable not to start on those soft tyres. I think most drivers would agree with that, so I think that's probably what most of these guys are going for. A couple of people are getting towards the exit of the pit lane, though we have already seen Jarno Opmeer is out there now on an outlap. We've already seen Jarno actually do an outlap on a pair of soft tyres, I believe, and then just came straight back into the pits again. Patrick Cloutey is out there. Someone just set a lap time. That's Falconardi, I believe, who's just gone up into fifth. And once again, it's slower than the rest, and you've got to feel that that might be intentional at this point.
He did slap on the brakes and a big lift off before he came across the line, so Falconardi definitely leaving a lot on the table. Let's see then, because I think Jarno Opmeer is going to be the first driver to set an actually representative lap time here at France. Danny Haddad's on an outlap. He's on the soft tyres, so we don't really know what everyone's plans are. It could be the drivers on soft tyres still looking to set banker times before they go out on a set of mediums, or maybe they are looking to push, and we'll find out how everything pans out over the course of the next 6-7 minutes.
Yeah, and the issue is as well, is that you can't just sit out there and think, okay, I won't set a lap time. If we all agree not to set lap times, that's fine. We can all start on fresh tyres and choose what tyres we want. Great, right? Well, not so much for Daniele Haddad, who's currently in 20th. So by not setting a lap time, Daniele would be starting at the back of the grid. So you still do need to set a lap time, and you still need to try and beat the right amount of people. You're aiming for 11th, or if you're on mediums, maybe for the top 10. But even then, you might still prefer 11th. It's kind of hard to say. So there's a huge amount of second guessing. This is an incredible, 8D chess match going on between these drivers right now. And it's going to be very, very tough for these guys to work out what the best thing to do is on the fly. A lot of them do have strategists, though, telling them what other drivers are doing, giving them recommendations. So maybe we might see that helping out and making the difference for some of these drivers.
This actually throws me back all the way to F1 2018. Again, our online racing league, I think it was season 10 back then. And this was when you had the likes of, it would have been Danny Berejne and Nicholas Longway driving, and they were the top dogs. Sometimes we'd see Isaac Price joining in, and there'd be this one guy, and he was one of my favorite drivers, German driving in the Williams called Myler. And what he would do is he would always qualify on the softer tyres. And I remember interviewing afterwards, because he would nearly always get pole, because all of the top guys would be qualifying on the medium tyres for the better strategy. And I remember after the races, Myler would just say, oh, I just thought it'd be fun, put me up there with the esports drivers and make them work to get past me while I'm on the soft tyres. I know I'm not going to beat them, but I might as well have some fun. So we'll see who's going to be the Myler of the lobby today.
Yeah, he might have been your favourite driver, but I doubt he was Nicholas Longay and all the others' favourite driver in that one. But, never mind that. I mean, you do what you want. You do what you think is going to give you the best chance, or even what you think might have you the most fun, as long as it doesn't, involve cheating or something along those lines. Jarno Opmeer, though, he's coming up towards the line on this set of medium tyres. Let's see where this lap puts him. It's only into 5th, so it's ahead of Falconardi and Bensabo Cogni, but it's not ahead of Felipe Guetta and Pablo Joglar and Tom 97, who all did their laps on those soft tyres. So that's interesting that Jarno's only been able to go that fast. Maybe the others at the very top weren't limiting themselves quite as much as we thought, or maybe Jarno is still limiting himself.
Yeah, Jarno might be limiting himself. We'll see what does come through. Maybe he wants to start outside the top 10 and put on a set of hards. It could be an option. Alvaro Caraton is on a lap. I think he might have invalidated, but he's still running in mode 2 ERS.
Oh, now he has.
Okay, well, there we go. That's his lap done and dusted. Joshi Dowu is on a lap. Let's see what he can pull through. Runs a bit wide on the exit of turn 5.
He's also gone.
So
Also
many
invalidation there. Yeah, no, a lot of drivers invalidating over and over and over. And so that's kind of throwing another spanner in the works for us understanding what these drivers are trying to do, right? Not only some of them, diving essentially, flubbing their lap times at the end on purpose. Some of them are doing it by accident, by invalidating. That was not intentional from Joshi Dowu, because otherwise, he'd still be pushing throughout the rest of the lap if he was looking to get a delta or a representative time, but not wanting to put it on the board. But he's backed out of the lap, so evidently it wasn't intentional. So there's a lot of drivers still just making mistakes out here as well, and that's muddying the waters yet further. Alessio Di Capua is on a push lap. He's yet to invalidate in the Ferrari on a set of medium tyres. So Alessio will be looking to try and best Jarno Opmeer's time, if nothing else. That's the sort of benchmark for the Italian F1 Esports Challenger Series driver right now. And we'll see whether he can get right up there or not.
Something else that's impressive, Jacob, is that Tom 97 has blown Jarno's time out of the water by 0.4 of a second. He was on the medium tyres as well, if I'm not mistaken. Oh wait, no, never mind that. He was on the softs too. Alessio Di Capua across the line, 27.9. So a 10th shy of what Jarno Opmeer was able to pull out.
It is interesting. The delta between the mediums and the softs seems to be pretty large over one lap here in qualifying, but those softs do go off at a rate of knots once you actually get into the race itself, and they are so tough to drive on once you get past a few laps in. So yeah, while right now it looks like the softs are the better tyre, don't worry, when it gets into the race, the degradation comes in of the rubber. That's going to make a big difference. Tianyu Tang's just put a lap time on the board, slower than Bensabo Cogni, who has also improved on a set of medium tyres from his 131. It's now up to a 128.5. So the two Renaults currently in 8th and 9th, but that could be the back of the grid, or it could be the best possible place come the end of this qualifying session. It's really hard to judge.
I'm hearing boss music playing right now, Jacob, because Nicholas Longway is on his first hot lap of ORL Season 14. Will it be enough to displace the likes of Jarno Opmeer and Alessio Di Capua from that P5 and P6 spot? DRS Open and the F1 Esports race winner will come across the line. 27.6. Nicholas Longway beats Jarno's time by over a 10th of a second.
Couldn't get in amongst the soft tyre runners, but does beat Jarno Opmeer and Alessio Di Capua, two of the drivers who consistently battle out for pole position here in ORL. Nicholas Longay is here to perform and proves it immediately with that very first hot lap in ORL Season 14. So a very good start there for the Frenchman. We'll see if Jarno Opmeer or Alessio can or even want to respond. Joshi Dowu has now set a lap time. That's a 1:28.343, slower than Shanaka Clay, who has gone ahead of him in the Alfa Romeo. Falconardi is still up there in 8th, having set his best lap time on a set of soft tyres. He's back out on an outlap. He just completed his outlap even on medium tyres. So he is looking to try and improve to get above that 1:28 flat mark, but that's going to be quite tough on medium tyres.
And I just saw Nicholas Longay giving a very big slipstream to Tomek Poradisha. I know these two are good friends. You usually see them on stream playing the likes of Valorant together, if I'm not mistaken. And Nicholas giving Tomek a big slipstream. Let's see if this is enough to get Tomek into the top 10.
Indeed, yeah. Tomek on those medium tyres as well, so definitely with an eye towards the race. Wants to be up there with the very best and can be on his day, that's for sure. The pole out of the final corner, maybe a slight correction for some oversteer as he put the power down and up towards the line. Where is this going to put him? It's ahead of Jarno Opmeer. It's a 1:27.771. Not as fast as Nicolas Longuet, but in the battle of the medium tire runners, that is currently the front row if you ignore the guys on the softs at the very front. What's Alvaro Caraton up to? He has yet to invalidate his lap, so he's still going in the Williams with a set of medium tires as well. Shinaka Clay's just come across the line and cannot improve. Indeed he is. Alvaro Caraton on soft tires. That is a very good point, actually. So Alvaro, he's got to be going for absolute pole with this one. He surely has to take absolute pole if he wants any hope. Alessio Di Caprio rejoining the track as Felipe goes even faster at the very front now. That 26.700. Alvaro Caraton looking to knock him off of his perch as he comes up towards the line now in the Williams. Where will the Spaniard go? And it's not going to be anywhere near fast enough. He was aiming for 11th, and he got 12th. He'll be happy with that. Daniele Haddad is the one who's managed to find 11th place, hit also on a set of soft tires. So perfectly judged from Haddad and almost perfectly judged from Alvaro Caraton. And with that, I think that's qualifying all wrapped up.
And there's no Pablo Joglar in the top 10 to disqualify themselves like they did back in Shanghai, which made Ben Sabaconi very upset, I'm fairly certain. But Jacob, we have 3 different strategies going on. We've got our top 4 starting on soft tires, then from 5th down to 10th starting on the medium compound of tires. And then everyone outside of the top 10, well, we'll have to see what they will be trying to pull out. But look at that gap from Tomek Paradisha to Jarno Opmeer. We're talking 500ths of a second. If Nicolas Longuet hadn't given that slipstream to Tomek would not have qualified ahead of Jarno.
Yeah, indeed. So not exactly teamwork because they're not team members, but friendship paying off in this case. Big sad news for Patrick Krutic and Dario Yemulo, both drivers who have had some good races recently. Both of them going to be starting on the back row of the grid, having not actually been able to set a lap time. Too many invalidations for both of those guys. So it's back of the grid for them.
And on that note, we're going to be heading into a quick break. And when we're back, we'll be bringing you the race live and uninterrupted for round 9 of the championship here in ORL Season 14. Stay tuned.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. The session will be starting in just a moment's time for the race here in the Online Racing League Formula 1 Split A Round 9, the French Grand Prix at the Circuit de Paul Ricard. And we said it at the beginning of qualifying, you said it, it was a Haas front row at that time when there were only 4 drivers who had actually set a lap time. And as it turned out, it remained a Haas front row throughout the whole rest of qualifying because so many drivers were either going on medium tires or trying to qualify outside of the top 10 to get free tire choice. And we'll see who's made it work for them and what they're going to choose now. It's only one driver who's gone for the hard tires, and that is Josh Adowu. We saw him going for a rather different strategy at the Bahrain short race that didn't suit him. So going out on a limb once again here is the Welshman in the McLaren, starting down in 15th position, though, not where he would like to be, that's for sure. So maybe he felt the need to roll the dice and do something different. Everyone else outside of the top 10 is on the medium tyres, as are Nicolas Longuet, Tomek Paradjic, Jarno Opmeer, and Alessio Di Capua. And you've got to feel those are the 4 drivers with the biggest chances to win it here today.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I think Bernardo Perez, aka Falconardi, is going to be really struggling. I think in the first couple of laps, he should actually be able to get a better start than Alessio Di Capua, maybe even get ahead of Jarno Opmeer on the soft tyres. But after about 4 laps, I think his softs will be hitting the transition phase when they become slower than the medium tyres. Josh Adowu, I think, is a big shout as well for taking maybe even a podium. I think he's down in P15, but on those hard tires, I think he can make a magic work, can the McLaren driver. Let's see as well what Shanaka Clay can pull out. Of course, race winner for us back in Shanghai.
Yeah, indeed. Daniel Haddad, Alvaro Carreton, Shanaka Clay. They're going to be hoping that that 1 or 2 extra laps of freshness they've got in their mediums compared to Longuet, Prajic, Otmir, and DiCaprio, they're going to be hoping that that will make all the difference for them. They didn't try to go out on the mediums at the very end. They went for the softs just to make sure they were going to be in 11th and 12th, did Haddad and Carreton. It worked out for them, but, you know, it'll be hard to tell whether that's going to be enough of an advantage or not over Longuet, Prajic, etc. Prajic getting a bit ahead of himself there on the formation, that overtaking Longuet a little bit there. So maybe a little bit of mind games as well. I'm sure they realize that they are effectively on the front row for this one in 6th and 7th, as everyone else ahead of them is on those soft tires. Interesting to see Domenico Levecce going in that direction as well, getting in there with the soft tires towards the end of the session and only going into 5th as well. He is a driver who's been really, you know, knocking on the door of a podium at most races recently, so I'm surprised to see him only in 5th on softs and not going for a medium start.
To bring up some interesting stats for you, Jacob, I believe this is the first time Jarno Otmir is off the front row of the grid. He's not even in the top 2 of the medium tire runners. And another interesting stat, it's a Shizou driver on pole, it's a Shizou driver at the back of the field, and it's an ex-Shizou driver who is the first of the medium tire runners.
Well, there you go. Nicely topped and tailed, and a bit of filling in the middle as well. But it's an all Shizou and all Haas front row with Felipe lining up on pole and Gettoned alongside. The drivers lining up at the back of the grid, and we are about to get underway here in France. All 5 lights are now on. They go out, and the drivers are underway straight away. Andy's got a jump start, and it looked like Gettoned had a better start off the line than Felipe, who might be struggling a bit here. He does seem to be ghosting, but I think he's going to be okay out there in the lead. So it is the 2 Hasses from Tom97, who's had a great start off the line up into 3rd. In 4th, I believe that's Pablo Joglar, followed by Domenico Levecce and Nicolas Longuet. So not too much movement for many of the drivers here. Further down, that's Falconardi and Alvaro Carreton, who are going side by side, the 2 Williams. And Alvaro Carreton actually taking a look at Alessio Di Caprio as well, who himself is trying to get up the inside of Tomek Prajic. Now, actually, Falconardi, starting on those softs, we expected him to trouble the cars ahead, but in fact, he's dropping backwards instead behind his teammate and down into 11th.
Keeping an eye on Alessio Di Caprio, is really closing in onto Tomek Prajic on the back straight. Could he look for the inside? No, he's going to back on out and slot back down into P9.
A little bit of a mess further behind as there are drivers all over the place. Ben Saviconi was maybe taking a look at Daniele Haddad. But the Italian keeps the Hungarian behind. Joshua Doe, who's lost a position starting on those hard tires, and he might be vulnerable to another one. Further up, that's Zones and Shanaka Clay going side by side through turn 10. And they're going to be side by side through 11 as well. Good news for Zones is that Ben Saviconi is blocking the outside line. And in fact, he's trying to make it 2 overtakes in 2 corners. And he's just about done so. Lovely move there by Zones, who gets past Ben Saviconi and Shanaka Clay. And that's a couple of big scalps to take in that manner.
Shanaka Clay trying to follow Zones through on Ben Sabukoni. He's got the outside for the penultimate corner, turn of 14, and he'll throw it down the inside into 15. But the question is, can he find the drive on corner X as Andy pulls into the pits and retires from the session?
After the jump start, I think Andy felt that this race was over, did not want to continue with it, and as a result has retired. Here comes Ben Sabukoni, looking to go around the outside of Zones into turn 1, and it's a lovely move from the Renault driver, who does regain that position. Zones wants to try and fight it back into 3 as well, but cannot get alongside the Renault. And as a result, we'll just have to settle back down in 14th, but still, having gained that position on Shanaka Clay, or has he, is Shanaka Clay very rudely barging his way through there on the apex of turn 5. But it's worked out for the Alfa Romeo driver. Zones might have something to say about that after the race, but right now he needs to do the talking on the track. I don't think he's going to be able to pull up alongside.
Dario Mullo is pulling up alongside Josh Doe on the run down into the bus stop chicane. He's on the medium. Josh Doe struggling on these hard tyres as one might expect in the opening few laps. Lap 2 of 27 here at Paul Ricard, and Dario Mullo slots right on in behind the McLaren.
Dario thinking about it but can't quite make the move quite yet. Domenico Levecce, his fellow Italian, has now got past Pablo Joglar, 2 soft tyre runners. Racing Point getting the better of the AlphaTauri in the end. Nicolas Longuet is not losing anything to these soft tyre runners up ahead of him. He's keeping well within DRS range of them. Jarno Otmir, of course, got ahead of Tomek Prajic at the start, so that's good news for Jarno, as he'll be hoping to keep Nicolas Longuet well within arm's reach. And currently about 7/10 of a second behind, but I don't think that's anything too much to worry about. Felipe sets the fastest lap, but Domenico Lavecce goes faster. He's the man on the move right now, and Tom 97 has fallen outside of DRS range of the two Haas's. So Domenico Lavecce might be looking to gobble up the Red Bull once we get to the Mistral Straight.
This is a really good situation for the two Shizou and the two Haas drivers, because they are now, as you mentioned, Jacob, over a second ahead of Tom 97. This is going to give them a fantastic opportunity to work together to stay out of that DRS range and to stay out of this critical DRS range that Tom 97, Domenico Lavecce and Pablo Hoglar are currently in.
Ooh. Look at Domenico here. He's absolutely reeling Tom in. He was about half a second at the beginning of the straight in arrears, and now he is ahead of the Red Bull driver. Huge amount of overspeed down the Mistral Straight. And Domenico Lavecce moves up into third. That's probably bad news for the Shizou drivers, as Domenico was the fastest guy around the circuit last time around. So he's going to be pushing to try and get back within that DRS mark of Get-Owned up in second. The Austrian comfortably staying with his teammate, the Brazilian Felipe, out at the very front. Further down, though, Falconardi still not able to make his soft tyres work, just mired down in that DRS train. And if he can't make hay right now, I don't think he's going to be able to make hay throughout the rest of the race. So Falconardi looking at a very tough race from here on out. But that's good news for Caraton, who would not have been wanting to have to deal with his teammate in these opening few laps while wanting to keep Alessio Di Caprio within sight up ahead.
There's a reason why Domenico Lavecce is currently sitting P8 in the standings, and he's already back within a second of a Get-Owned and the Shizou duo at the front of the field. And now that he's within that 1 second, he is not going to be falling out over the 1 second zone.
No, you best believe it. And with the amount of overspeed he got on Tom through turn 7 and onto the straight last time around, he might even have a look at Get-Owned after this one. Of course, Get-Owned does have the DRS himself, so there won't be quite so much of a difference, and Domenico is probably going to want to save up some overtake as well. Some ERS mode, that is, rather, not using the overtake, so that maybe in a couple of laps' time he can have another go. Right now, content just to sit down in third, having reached the DRS.
He's going to cut across me here, Jacob, because here comes Dario Mullo going up the inside of Josh Idowu down the Misan straight, and he pulls off the move nice and cleanly. Josh Idowu really struggling on these hards right now.
Yeah, but he'd expect to be struggling on those hards at this point. It's going to be later in the race that those should come back to him in terms of performance. So it's not all over yet for Josh Idowu. This is pretty much exactly what he would have to have been planning for at this stage. Nicolas Longue, by the way, is under close inspection from Jarno Opmeer just behind. They were very close at the end of the Mistral Straight when they got into the turn 8 chicane. And Nicolas Longue had a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 11 as well, so maybe feeling a tiny bit of pressure now from the F1 Esports Pro Series reigning champion, who's all over his rear wing. Luckily for Nicolas, though, Pablo Hoglar is just ahead, so the DRS is available there. So that should help him to keep Jarno Opmeer behind for the next few laps at least, but Jarno is looking pretty lively in 7th at the moment.
I've just switched between Jarno and Nicolas, and you can see that Nicolas is down to about 60% ERS, Jarno's on 85% ERS. Oh. It is so hard, Jacob, to beat Jarno Opmeer in an ERS strategy game, because right now what Nicolas wants to do is he wants to get past Pablo Hoglar and keep one of the soft tire runners between himself and Jarno Opmeer at all times, but it is just so difficult for him to do so. Even now, Jarno Opmeer using no ERS on the back straight. He's making sure that he's got a full tank of ERS. He's got a full battery available, so that if he goes for the overcut, if he goes for the undercut, he can absolutely hammer it.
Yeah, and he's actually using his overtake now. He might be thinking about trying to make a move into turn 10 on Nicolas Longue, but that would have been very ambitious. I think he's just using it at the sort of optimal parts of the circuit to make sure you get a decent lap time through. He wants to stay really, really close behind Nicolas, who himself is now getting held up quite significantly by Tom 97 and Pablo Hoglar up ahead. You can tell there's a big difference in the apex speed now. Those soft tyres are falling away, and the medium tyre runners are now being held up in the middle of each corner by those guys ahead. So Nicolas has got to be careful to keep his front wing clean. Otherwise, he could see shards of carbon fiber going flying off of it, and that would definitely not help him in his battle with Jarno Opmeer. We're already seeing Falconardi into the pits. He's going to be the first one to get rid of those soft tyres. Meanwhile, the skies are darkening.
The skies are really dark. I was about to bring this up, Jacob, but those clouds, think about how much is darkened over the last lap. I do not think this is an overcast race. I think this is rain that is expected to fall, and Falconardi has had to bite the bullet. He cannot stay out until the rain comes through. And let's keep an eye as well to see whether Bernardo Perez puts on a new set of soft tires to make it until the rain falls, or whether he goes for some mediums or hards.
We will see. It's going to be another set of softs for Falconardi. So, yeah, that pretty much confirms it, I think, at this stage, unless he's going for a two-stop. But the rain is almost certainly coming here, and so is Jarno Opmeer. All over the rear wing of Nicholas Longe. Nicholas goes defensive into turn 8. Jarno hangs it around the outside. Beautifully done. Turn 9, he has the inside line. Squeezes the Red Bull a little bit on the exit, but Nicholas keeps his foot down, keeps himself in the hunt with Jarno Opmeer. However, Jarno got the better run, and he should have the line for turn 10. Indeed, he does. Nicholas using the overtake. He's dumping the overtake. He's not giving Jarno this one for free. But Jarno shutting the door quite late there into turn 11. Will hold on to P6. Nicholas Longe falling down into 7th for now. But of course, with the rain about to come down, this could all be trivial.
And this is exactly what Jarno Opmeer was trying to do. This is why he was saving his ERS. He knew he wanted to dump it all. He knew he wanted to get the move done on Nicholas Longe before the rain comes down, because we know, we've seen it time and time again, not just here in ORL, in every single league you ever look at. When the rain comes down, it becomes so difficult to overtake, and Jarno Opmeer is now ahead of Nicholas Longe and can now try to push and get ahead of Pablo Hoglar as Nicholas Longe loses the rear end on the exit of turn 2 and picks up his first 3-second time penalty, only the second penalty of the race so far.
Yeah, you can tell he's pushing so hard picking up that time penalty there. He's desperate to try and keep with Jarno Opmeer and try and get back past again. He wants to be ahead by the time they come into the pits for a set of intermediate tyres if this rain is going to come down. But right now, struggling to keep on the coattails of the Mercedes, and he's using some overtake. He's using a bit more towards the end of the straight. He's not going to be close enough, and he's too close, in fact, into the rear of Jarno Opmeer. Jarno holds on to the car just about, but now Nicholas is going to try and get the switch back on him. Nicholas is going to get out of the throttle there. That was wise. But Tomek Paragic might be looking to get involved. So is Alessio Di Capua. Tomek might have been held up by Nicholas Longe getting out of it there. And Alessio thinking better of it. He's had too many retirements this season to want to send a dive bomb up the inside of a flat-out turn 10. And as a result, he backs away.
I'm surprised that Alessio didn't keep his front end in. It is difficult to run side-by-side through turn. And if you try to take a flat, most likely you will see one car lose their rear end by trying to hold too tight of a line as Jarno Opmeer sends it down the inside of Pablo Hoglar. But this does mean that Nicholas Longe should get a better run than the pair of them and maybe bring him in contention in this battle for P5.
How has Jarno got such a good run after doing that? He got a better run than Nicholas Longe. I don't understand how that's possible. Jarno Opmeer, that's really, really impressive stuff, honestly. The move wasn't great, but the fact that it didn't cost him anything is just insane, to be honest. Nicholas, very, very close behind. He's always later into the braking zones. Nicholas likes to push the car really deep into those braking zones. Here goes Jarno Opmeer on Pablo Hoglar once again. It's another moment with the rear end there as they make contact. The rain is starting to come down, and Jarno Opmeer has got past Pablo Hoglar. And Nicholas Longe needs to do the same thing immediately. He has
for the lead as well here, Jacob.
In the tank. Further up the order, Domenico Lovecce is trying to get past Felipe. He has got past Felipe, and Get Owned has got past Felipe as well and up into the lead. Further back, it's Pablo Hoglar who is getting passed by Nicholas Longe. Critical for the Frenchman to get past the Spaniard. Now Tomek Paragic, he wants to do the same, and he's going to be able to breeze past on the way down towards turn 10. Alessio Di Capua, is he going to try and get involved as well? Tom 97 is falling down. He's got past Jarno Opmeer. It's chaos right now. Pablo Hoglar, he's trying to go defensive here, but he's got nothing left on those soft tyres in the very slippery conditions. He's desperately trying to hang on to that car. Nicholas Longe gets another 3-second time penalty, and here's Alessio Di Capua. Jarno Opmeer is getting past Felipe. He's really rocketing up.
I think they're going to pit in this lap. Look at how much the rain is coming down. Get on Domenico Lovecce diving on into the pits. Felipe's got to follow in. Oh, Domenico Lovecce lost part of his front wing. He ran into the back of the Haas driver.
Jarno Opmeer stayed out. So has Nicholas Longe. So has Tomek Paragic and Alessio Di Capua as well. So many of the medium tyre runners who were about to gain the race lead on their own have now done so by not pitting when all the rest of them have gone in for those intermediate tyres. We're not quite at the stage yet where the intermediates are ready, but we might be before half of this lap is done. This is a big gamble that Opmeer, Longe, Paragic, etc. are taking at this stage of the race. They want to see if they can make it work. Right now, Get-Owned has Alvaro Cariton closest behind. Alvaro has gained significantly in the pit stops here. Domenico Levecce with that front wing change has fallen all the way down to 17th. Felipe having to queue with Get-Owned has fallen all the way down to 18th. Shanaka Clay's found himself at the very back, but Alvaro Cariton up into second of the guys on the Inters.
And Felipe has been ruined by double stacking behind his teammate. He's all the way down to P18 now. All of that hard work down the gutter. But Jacob, this is Brazil 2.0. Think about it. The intermediate tires, they need to last over half race distance. They're going to be absolutely shot come the end of the race. Jarno Opmeer surely pits this lap. We'll have to see where he comes out relative to Get-Owned and Alvaro Cariton, who is currently running in P2 of the intermediate tire runners.
I don't think the DRS has been disabled yet, though. I'm not sure if we're still quite at intermediate tire conditions. The rain's definitely coming down. The track is very, very slippery. That much is for certain. And there's the DRS disabled. Perfect timing for this front quartet, or even more than a quartet. Daniele Haddad lost some front wing. He went into the back of Alessio Di Capua. He braked too late on the pit entry. And exactly what happened to Domenico Levecce in the other racing point has happened to Daniele Haddad as well. And that is a disaster for them. That front wing is it ready and waiting? Is he even going to be able to get it on? Yes, he will. So at least there's that. But he's going to lose so much track position. Where is Jarno Opmeer?
Nicholas Longue is in the lead.
These guys? And Alessio's passed as well. Longue's ahead of Opmeer, and so is Alessio Di Capua. Dario Yemulo is going to be close behind them as well. Zone's right in there. Where are the rest of the intermediate tire runners? They're coming out alongside right now. Here comes Cariton up the inside of Yemulo, but Nicholas Longue, Alessio Di Capua, Jarno Opmeer, and then Get-Owned. So Get-Owned loses out to those three drivers.
Get-Owned has a small window. Those intermediate tires of Jarno Opmeer will be somewhat cold. And if Get-Owned can just get the hammer down instantly, maybe he can find a way through. Tomek Poradisha picks up a time penalty, but once again, Jacob, Jarno Opmeer in the Mercedes in the early pit box is a compromise.
Tanyu Tang, by the way, just took two drivers. Zones and Tomek, they were battling the two poles through turn 5, and Tanyu Tang has just gone straight up the inside of both of them when they pushed each other wide. Zones is ahead of Tomek Brajic, who has lost out heavily in these pit stop phases. Same for Tom 97, who's sitting behind them and has Ben Sabukonyi for company as well. Tom just about staying ahead of him for now. Nicholas Longue is leading the way, but he has 6 seconds of time penalties, let's not forget. Alessio Di Capua in second is currently in the pound seat to win this race, but Jarno Opmeer in third can never be discounted.
You can never discount Jarno Opmeer. Dario Yemulo picking up a time penalty. And he's right on the back of Alvaro Cariton, as actually he runs wide through turn 11 and almost loses a position to Pablo Hoglard. Jarno Opmeer struggling. He's 1.2 seconds behind Alessio Di Capua. That gap has been steadily increasing over the course of the lap. And this is where we get to that point where we start discussing, are drivers on wet setups, were they on dry setups?
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare to try and work out who was on a wet setup, who was on a dry setup, but yeah, you're welcome to try and work it out if you would like. Jarno Opmeer, though, is struggling to keep with Di Capua and Longue right now. But is that because of ERS management? No, it's not even. Di Capua has more ERS available than Jarno Opmeer does, and I think that's the first time all season that has been a true statement. Jarno Opmeer doesn't seem to quite have it in the wet conditions right now, but again, you cannot count him out. Meanwhile, Daniele Haddad, as a result of overshooting his mark on the braking zone into the pit lane, has fallen all the way down to 14th. Still ahead of Levecce, who had the same issue, but nevertheless, down in 14th is not where Daniele Haddad will have wanted to be.
I'm just looking at the drivers who are towards the back of the grid. Felipe, our race winner from China, Shanaka Clay, Domenico Levecce, who's running in P8 in the championship, Danny Haddad, Josh Doe, they've had terrible pit stops. The racing points losing their front wings. Felipe getting caught in the double stack, and we've actually got a battle between Patrick Kruti and Tom 97.
Yeah, Patrick Kruti trying to get past Tom 97 there, but couldn't quite do it. 3-second time penalty for Shanaka Clay. Kruti once again slipstreaming Tom, using a lot of overtake as well, but cannot quite pull alongside the Red Bull in time. Might send a dive bomb up the inside here for turn 11, and indeed does so, and Tom 97 doesn't really battle that one too hard. Trying to hold it around the outside actually is the Englishman, but he cannot quite make that work either. So Patrick Kruti up into 12th, and he'll be looking to close down Ben Sabukonyi up ahead outside of DRS range, but DRS doesn't matter when the conditions as they are. What does matter, though, is the amount of time between you and the car ahead. And at the moment, that's only getting worse and worse for Jarno Opmeer. He's further behind Longuet and DiCapua than he was before. Tomek Paradzic, meanwhile, has got back past Zones. Zones has actually made a mistake in the final corner, and Ben Sabukonyi capitalizes on the Poles' misfortunes as well.
Yeah, Zones ran wide on the exit of the final corner. He was battling with Tomek, so he might have been squeezed wise, as now Danny Haddad has a go and makes his way past Tom 97 up to P13. But I tell you what, Jarno Opmeer is really struggling. He's 1.7 seconds behind Alessio Di Capua now, and Alessio Di Capua is in a prime position to secure his first ever ORL victory.
Indeed he is, and it's so many times where he seemed like he could have challenged for the victory. It's never quite come together for him, but right now it's looking very, very good. He's going to want me to be touching wood right now, so I'll do it for him, but Nicolas Longuet out at the front has those time penalties, 2 of them. So even if Alessio Di Capua picks up 1 3-second time penalty, he still has that advantage over Nicolas Longuet. Then, at that point, then he'd have to worry about the gap to Jarno Opmeer behind. For now, all he needs to do is keep that gap rising, even if it's rising a little bit. As long as it's not coming down, he's comfortable to Jarno Opmeer at this stage of the race.
He's going down the inside of Alvaro Caraton, down into turn 11, and he's going to pull alongside the Williams. Can Alvaro find the traction on exit? The answer is yes, he can, as Dario Mulo gets right up onto the curb on the apex. He might have even picked up a warning for that incident. Yeah,
Getone was really, really slow on the exit of 11 there as well, and that kind of gave them a bit of the creeps at the exit of that corner. Alvaro didn't want to go into the rear end of Getone, and Yemulo realized there was a gap that might well close if Alvaro had to get out of the way of the Haas driver up ahead. So I think it was pretty sensible to back out of that move in the end. Out at the front is Nicolas Longuet in the navy blue Red Bull, leading the way from the all red Ferrari of Alessio Di Capua. Jarno Opmeer, our championship leader and 3-time race winner in the last 3 races, currently has no answer for the pace of these front 2. Getone is actually staying with Jarno Opmeer pretty well. The gap's been stable at about around 1.6 seconds these last few laps, but Alvaro Caraton and Yemulo both look like they're faster than Getone right now, so it could even get worse for Jarno Opmeer if Caraton can get past Getone.
Now, Jacob, we're going to play Sherlock Holmes. Do you have your Sherlock Holmes cap at the ready?
I'm wearing a hooded jumper. I'll put on my hood. Okay. That'll have to do.
Do you have your smoking pipe?
No, no, I don't, unfortunately, because I live in this century, but go on.
Okay, Jarno Opmeer is currently going slower than Alessio Di Capua. When has that ever happened before?
Almost never, almost never.
Almost never. Now, there are 2 possibilities here. One, Alessio Di Capua is actually faster than Jarno Opmeer, and Jacob, what is the second possibility?
The second possibility is that these intermediate tyres are going to be very touch and go to the end, and Jarno Opmeer is absolutely babying them to make sure that he will have the better conditioned tyres at the end of the race. And that, by the way, is exactly what he did in Brazil. He fell a significant way behind the race leader. I think it was Josh Idowu at the time. And Jarno Opmeer... Joni Tormela, that's who it was, yeah. And Jarno Opmeer fell about 2.5 seconds behind him, and in the last few laps, he got all that time straight back.
And that's what we have to watch out for. These tyres, when we talk about the intermediate tyres, they usually do half of the race. So in a 27-lap race, we'd say 14 laps, they'd get to about 60% or so. Maybe they could do 18 and 19 laps before they get to about 70-80% tyre wear. And, well, considering that the drivers put these on well before lap 10, with, I think it was, what, lap 8 and lap 7, in the final 2-3 laps of this race, he who has nursed his tyres the best will be laughing the loudest.
Indeed, but Jarno is he's losing a lot of time still, though. I mean, if he's nursing, he's got to hope that Nicolas Longuet and Alessio Di Capua are absolutely thrashing their intermediate tyres right now. I think that is very much true of Alessio, who got very, very close behind Nicolas on that last lap, has fallen a bit further behind the Frenchman once again. But nevertheless, they're not using much in terms of ERS, nor is Jarno, to be fair. He's actually saved up back into around the 80% mark.
Chan Yu Tang, he's going to go down the inside. The Renault driver will not defend. And Tomek Poradisha down the inside should move up into P8. No defense from Chen Yu Tang.
Well, you say no defense. He tried to hold it around the outside there, but... You know, he didn't go to the inside defensively, so to speak.
And now Ben Sabaconni's joined in the fight because of Chan Yu Tang trying to defend. He's going to go round the outside of turn 10. Oh, this is brave, brave stuff from the Renault teammates.
Yeah, Ben Sabaconni trying to get around the outside of his interim teammate for this race, and just about manages to do so. So Chan Yu Tang falls down into 10th. Has that time penalty as well, so isn't looking at a point-scoring finish quite yet, but is still in a decent position as the Chinese driver. Dario Yamulo was very close behind Alvaro Caraton and is still very close behind Alvaro Caraton as well. The Spaniard cannot find a way past Ghetto, and you can see how much these guys are being held up by that fact right now. Josh Idowu has retired from the race. He got a 3-second time penalty, and I think he's crashed on the pit lane entry there and has retired from the race. So I'm not sure if he was just frustrated with how the race was going. The decision to start on the hard tires didn't work out for him. Either way, he's found himself in a wall somewhere and has retired from the race.
Qualifying didn't go well for Josh Idowu. He struggled on the hard tyres, and he put on the hard tyres, and I think he was just hoping, praying that the rain would come super, super late, but that is not what happened. And now he has retired down in P19. Okay, so I want to go and talk about this top 3 battle again. I think Nicolas Longuet is going to try and pit. I think he's going to pit. I think he's pushing, and I think he'll pit on about lap, let's say about lap 19. He'll put on a fresh set of intermediates, and he will absolutely bomb it.
Maybe, but there's such a huge column of traffic that they'll have to get through right there. And it's not going to be easy at all. You know how hard it is to overtake in the wet conditions in this game.
Yes.
The dirty air effect is massive. You don't have DRS. Overtake mode is harder to use. Nicolas Longuet picks up another 3-second time penalty. That's his third of the race. He's up to 9 seconds. Nicolas Longuet, everything else about his performance today has been absolutely stellar in his first race back in ORL for a very long time. But the F1 esports driver is just not keeping it between the lines right now.
Needs to stay or steer clear of the time penalties. Currently, Jarno Otmar is staying about 3 seconds behind Nicolas Longuet. As
Zones, Punaka Clay, both into the pits.
There we go. I said around lap 18, a couple of laps early, we're seeing those pit stops come through. They've done 5-6 laps. I wonder if there was wing damage for the Polish and the British drivers, respectively.
Oh, there is for Zones, I can tell you that. But Shanaka Clay, no front wing change for him. So this is a purely strategic decision then from the Alfa Romeo driver, and he reckons that those inters weren't going to get to the end of the race, or he reckons that this is going to be faster. I think it's got to be the former rather than the latter. I don't think it's going to be faster to two-stop with the intermediates, so to speak, but I do think that there's a significant chance that some of these intermediates go bang before we get to the end of the race, and that's why we're seeing such edgy driving from some of these guys. Jarno Otmar, by the way, it's not 2 seconds anymore. He's starting to get a bit closer again. Maybe the others have realized, they've cottoned on, that they're thinking, oh no, these tires, they're not making it. And they're starting to slow down just a bit.
I really, really wish we could see the tire wears of each of the drivers, which if we had the telemetry app or whatever it is, we could see as Dario Muller has a little look down the inside of Alvaro Caraton, and he's going to squeeze his Alfa Romeo through, makes contact with the Williams driver, and Dario Muller possibly up to P5. He's on the outside now for turn 12, and he will get squeezed out wide, and Alvaro Caraton holds on to the position for now.
Yeah, Alvaro was actually very generous on the apex of 11 to give Dario so much space. Dario's going again. He's looking to try and take the outside, maybe a switchback into the final corner, but he misjudges the switchback ever so slightly. They make contact, and as a result, Alvaro will hold on to the position. 3 more drivers into the pits. Ben Saboconi, Patrick Cruti, and Daniele Haddad. So Daniele, whose race was going pretty badly after that incident into the pit lane, and when he had to change his front wing, now has decided to roll the dice and go for a second set of intermediate tyres, hoping that with such an action, he can find himself back up towards the top of the order come the end of this race. We'll have to wait and see. He's on the same strategy, though, as Saboconi and Cruti, who are both ahead of him at this stage.
18 laps on the intermediate tyres. Is it possible? Maybe, but it's going to be hit and miss. And we've spoken to the drivers post-race, and they've said that it's completely random. Alvaro Caraton had that puncture, I think it was only last week at Belgium, or was it all the way back at Brazil, where he got the puncture with 70% tyre wear. It's happened to other people where they get punctures at 70% tyre wear, and other drivers have 85 going on to 90% tyre wear and don't get a puncture. It is entirely random after that 70-75% point. Does anyone want to risk it? For the likes of Nicolas Longuet, he's got nothing to risk. He's not battling for a championship. Alessi Di Capua, he's currently sitting P6 in the championship. Surely he'll want to bag the points and ensure that he does bring some points home at this weekend.
A race win is a possibility for Alessio, and you can tell just how much the Italian would love that. Jarno Opmeer, though, is getting closer and closer to the rear wing of the Ferrari. The black Mercedes is getting there. Jarno Opmeer is on the hunt at the moment. Tomek Prajicz is the latest driver to head into the pits. Jan Yu Tang will follow him in, so will Tom 97. Those guys all reckon their Inters will not make it to the end. Felipe doing the same. His race wasn't going in the way he would like it to, so makes sense to try and do something a bit different as well. Though at some point, it might be better just to stay out and hope the tyres do last and everyone else who pits doesn't catch up to you. Alvaro Caraton is still stuck behind Gettoned. If Alvaro got past Gettoned, he could have given Jarno Opmeer some serious trouble when Jarno was in that tyre conservation phase. But because Alvaro couldn't do so, Jarno was just free to just take as much time as he liked and to make sure those tyres were in the optimum condition. His ERS, by the way, it was at 100% very briefly right there.
Tomek Prajicz just comes out of the pits and he is 7/10 ahead of Ben Sabaconi and Patrick Kruti. So the undercut for the Polish and the Hungarian drivers have worked out well. And let's see if Tomek can put in some laps and maybe even jump ahead of the likes of Domenico Lavecce and Dario Iamullo.
Yeah, the undercuts have worked pretty well, but they're not exactly huge. Daniela Haddad is still behind Tian Yu Tang, and he'll have wanted to have been able to get past the Chinese driver in this pit stop phase with the undercut he tried to pull off. Now he'll have to try and pass him on track instead. But the trouble is, if you're Daniela Haddad, if you're Tom 97, if you're Felipe, even if your strategy is the right call here, you're still looking at a 10th place finish or thereabouts at best, because there's so many drivers ahead of you on that same alternate strategy, if you will. Falconardi is still 11.5 seconds ahead of Tomek Prajicz, so those tyres are going to have to go off in a big way in the last few laps for Tomek to be able to catch back up to him. Alvaro Caraton is the next driver to go into the pit lane.
Alvaro into the pits. In my opinion, Jacob, if nobody pits on this next lap, they won't pit. They will take their tyres to the end of the race, and to be honest, I think for the likes of Getto, who's already done 10 laps on these tyres, he would have wanted to pit on this previous lap. Same goes for Pablo Hoglar. So I think, you know, we've got a few drivers who are risking it. Domenico Lavecce is on wets. Domenico Lavecce is put on the wrong tyres.
I mean, I can only assume. I mean, it's pretty wet out there. It's not the least sensible thing I've ever seen. I don't think it's full wet conditions yet. Maybe it's getting close to it. The rain is heavy. There is quite a bit of standing water, but I don't know. Domenico, it's a big gamble from the Italian. And surely, if you're doing that, wait another lap. Wait one more lap to see if it's going to get to extreme wet conditions.
Well, the question that I'd ask is, if it is full wet conditions that we can expect, why have so many people pitted from the intermediate tyres onto a new set if they know that there's more rain and heavier rain to come?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's sort of on the edge. Maybe they're saying heavy rain in 5 or heavy rain in 10. You can't quite tell when exactly it's going to come. I don't know, maybe different Jeffs are saying different things. Domenico Lavecce is sticking with Tom 97 right now, but Tom himself is losing a bit of time up to the cars ahead, so Domenico's still not got great pace, but he's not too far away from the intermediate tyres right now.
He is matching the pace. Something I do want to bring up is, Jacob, do you remember a certain league race that we commentated at France? Do you remember what the weather conditions were like in that race?
I do remember that we have commentated on a very, very wet race in France, yeah.
So that race went from dry to inters, then to full wets, and then back to inters. And I remember a few drivers, I think it was Paris Burrell, tried to stay out on the intermediate tyres in the full wet conditions, and it really did not pay off. And maybe Domenico Lavecce is just trying to be on the right tyres at the right time. He's keeping up with Tom 97, which means we are in this crossover phase. Pablo Hoglar, Falconardi into the pits. They're putting on intermediate tyres. So this might be a case of the rain getting worse, but then it's going to lighten up later. And the people who go on intermediates think that it's not worth having to do another pit stop.
Yeah, Domenico is still staying with Tom, and Tom's actually getting closer to the intermediate tyre runners up ahead now. Domenico actually ran wide there through 7. Or rather, through 2, sorry, not 7, 2, very different corners. But nevertheless, Domenico picking up a 3-second time penalty there, so that's not going to help. But, I mean, the difference, if the wet tyres are better right now, they're only just better. I think they're basically even with the Inters at this stage, which is a really weird, coin-flippy sort of situation to be in this race. By the way, Jarno Opmeer, he's been within 1 second of Alessio Di Capua for a while, but he's getting closer still. He's almost within half a second there of the red Ferrari. And he's going to be starting giving Alessio Di Capua yet more to think about in these next few laps. You would have to imagine Alessio is doing well in terms of his ERS battery management. So same can be said for Nicolas Longuet. Getone is not falling any further behind these drivers after Jarno's previous burst of speed. So maybe back into tyre conservation a little bit here for Longuet, Di Capua and Opmeer. Dario Iamulo, with Alvaro Caraton having pitted, still cannot find a way past Getone.
Danny Haddad finding a way pass on Shan Yu Tang down the inside of turn 11. And Danny Haddad moves up to P11. He's got Pablo Hoglar up ahead, who's just actually come out of the pits on a fresh set of intermediate tyres.
Yeah, Domenico Lavecce is still getting closer to Tom now, and I think I'm just about getting confident enough to say, oh, actually, as Chan Yu Tang is forced off track there by Shanaka Clay going for a big dive bomb into turn 15. And Shanaka will take advantage of that one. Tom 97 not close enough. That has closed up significantly as a result of that little incident there between those two drivers. So he was closing in on the rear end of this train anyway. Has a bit of a moment, though, through turn 2, and that might give Domenico Lavecce the opportunity here on those full wet tyres to try and dispatch the Red Bull. He's going to send it up the inside of 3, or try to, but Tom breaks later. And lovely defense there from the Red Bull driver, who stays ahead in 14.
I think Domenico Lavecce is definitely quicker, but the difference between the full wets and the intermediates is not enough. But if you look now, you can see the rain is really coming down, and I think now is the moment where the full wets will start to perform better. And here comes Domenico Lavecce on Tom 97 once again.
Yeah, Domenico trying to get past, but again, he cannot do it. Tom just so much later in the braking zone once more, and stays ahead of what's going to be a pretty frustrated Italian in that racing point. The race has absolutely not gone Domenico's way. In fact, it's been very up and down. But right now, sitting down there in 15, trying to do something different with those wet tyres. It's working, but it's not working well enough quite yet.
Just seeing Domenico Lavecce running wide, and he backs on out completely to avoid picking up another warning. Domenico Lavecce right now, if he knows that it's going to get wetter and wetter, he does not need to overly push. He can wait, he can bide his time, he doesn't need to do anything silly. He can wait for the race to come to him. With Tom 97 pit, he runs wide. No, he's going to come back out onto the circuit. Domenico Lavecce looking to get the slingshot out of the final corner.
Surely he'll be able to do the move now. He's definitely got more grip than Tom. That much is for certain. I think the track is still getting wetter at this stage of the race. Here comes the pink Racing Point trying to get around the outside of the intermediate tired Red Bull. And Tom once again later in the braking zone. It's just switchback after switchback for Domenico, but none of them are powerful enough. And he's still stuck behind Tom 97. Now he goes to the outside line instead. Maybe he'll go later on the brakes, and he does this time around. And finally, he does get past Tom 97. In the end, oh no, it's not over yet. Tom back up the inside of 5. That's always a tricky place to go side by side because it tightens so much on exit. Domenico finds that out to his cost as he runs wide on the exit and picks up a penalty, but does manage to get the move done. Further up the order, Dario Iamulo has just got past Getoned into turn 10. Finally, after 13 laps, or 12 laps, stuck behind the half driver.
Tom's found a way back past Domenico Lavecce on the exit of the corner. Domenico Lavecce is still stuck in P15 behind the Englishman.
Unbelievable. Tom holding him at arm's length and really ruining Domenico's race at this point. There's only so many laps left in the race, and of course, it is going to get wetter, and it will get better for Domenico Lavecce, but he still needs to catch up. If the gaps are huge, it doesn't matter how much better it gets, he's still not going to be able to get up to them. So he needs to try and get past Tom as quickly as possible, because he is probably the fastest car on track right now, if only he could get past this damned Red Bull.
And you're just seeing how well the intermediates can perform in the full wet conditions, whereas the full wets in intermediate conditions, they usually burn up so quickly. And it is definitely full wet conditions out there, but as you can see on prime example here, as Jarno Opmeer has found a way through on Alessio Di Capua for P2.
Yeah, Jarno getting past Alessio. They were close for so long, and Alessio had just got close behind Nicolas Longuet as well, but Jarno Opmeer chose the time to pounce. He didn't have to use much ERS for it either. I think Alessio made some kind of error there, and Jarno Opmeer goes up in a second. Alessio down into third. And that is not what he needed. He would have desperately wanted to keep Jarno Watmir behind because effectively that's the change of the race lead. Nicolas Longuet has that 9-second time penalty and will fall behind these drivers. There is no doubt about that. So Jarno Watmir is looking at his 4th win in a row right now, and it seems like he's held on to his intermediates beautifully. He's driving away from Alessio Di Capua now.
Yeah, Alessio Di Capua seems to be really struggling on his inters. I wonder if they are completely burnt out right now, and up to about 70% tire wear. I have a feeling we might be seeing Alessio Di Capua diving on into the pits for some full wets.
He may well do. We'll have to wait and see on that one.
He's so slow right now.
Yeah, he's really, really struggling there in the Ferrari. He doesn't have visible damage to the front wing. But Dario Iamulo is, in fact, he's disconnected. He's not here. Alessio Di Capua, he's paused or he's disconnected or something. It's an AI in control of his car. Dario Iamulo gets past. Getoned is about to get past as well. And Alessio, every single time. He so often looks like he's going to take his first race win, and every single time something happens. There, he's left the session. You can see it now. Alessio, he's out of the race.
It is disaster, and Jacob, look at the weather. It is no longer raining hard. Domenico Lavecce is dropping really far back from Tom 97, and I think Domenico Lavecce's race has gone down the drain. But I'm keeping an eye on Alvaro Carreton because he's now 14.5 seconds behind Geton and Alessio Di Capua, and before that was about 18 seconds. So Alvaro is really closing in, and the rate at which he's closing in will only be increasing over the coming 4 laps.
Yeah, still a significant gap though, so they're going to have to be really tiptoeing if Alvaro wants to get ahead of Geton and Dario Iamulo, but they do have penalties as well, let's not forget, so Alvaro Carreton will have that advantage at least. It's 6 seconds on Iamulo, so Alvaro needs to get within that 6-second margin. Right now, this is absolutely Jarno Watmir's race to lose. Everyone around him has penalties. He's looking pretty solid. He has better ERS state than Nicolas Longuet. He's far enough ahead of Iamulo and Geton that he doesn't really have to worry about it. Iamulo is down at 14% ERS, and similar story for Geton. So those guys have been pushing like absolute crazy, trying to stay with Longuet and Otmir. And Alessio Di Capua, obviously not a factor anymore, having disconnected from the session. So, unless Alvaro Carreton will make it to the end. Interesting here, interesting. Alessio Di Capua's AI has pitted. Alessio Di Capua's AI felt that those tyres couldn't make it to the end of the race. So, that means surely they're going to be in puncture territory come the end.
Yeah, surely. And something else to bring up, Jacob, is right now, if the race finished as it is, Geton would secure his first P2. He will finish at P2 in the race as Domenico Lavecce. He's dived on into the pits. He's given up. The rain did not come down hard enough, and he knows that there is nothing left for him. So, Jacob, it's time to play one of Milky's mini games. How many punctures do you think we are going to get?
Well, I'm going to say only one. I'm going to say only one puncture, and I'm not going to say who's going to get it. At the moment, it's most likely that would happen to Geton, but yes. I'd love for him to finish second. I really don't want that to happen to him, actually. It would be a great, really, really great result. By far, his best result of the season. If he finishes up there, even on the podium, even if he finishes 4th at the end, it would be his best result of the season. So Geton, the Austrian driver in the Haas, it's really been a tale of 2 races for the Haases as well. It was Felipe who started ahead of Geton. Geton started in 2nd on the grid. But critically, he got ahead of Felipe 1 lap before they came into the pits. That meant that Felipe was the one that had to queue in the pits and not Geton. And as a result of that, Felipe's race went south and Geton's star just continued to rise. And right now, he is looking at a very, very good finish. If only he can get those tyres to the end of the race.
But could you imagine, Jacob, if Felipe had stayed out an extra lap and then he would have put it on the optimal lap, he actually would have jumped back ahead of Geton. And it'd be Felipe who'd currently be in 4th, or maybe even up in 3rd.
Yeah, I know. It's a strange decision from Felipe at the end of the day. He must have really felt that the rain was coming down hard enough that you had to get onto the intermediates that lap, that there was no choice but to do so. He would have known that Geton was pitting up ahead. It was entirely his decision to make. He decided to double stack. He thought it would be better for his race. Unfortunately for him, he was very wrong.
One of those things that comes with experience, being able to pinpoint the right lap, but to pit, knowing how the weather is changing and when it will be the right point to see a crossover. Shanaka Clay is closing in onto Danny Haddad. We might see a switch for the final points paying position, although at the end it wouldn't actually matter because Shanaka Clay has a time penalty and Danny Haddad does not.
Alvaro Carreton getting closer and closer to Yemulo and Geton, but with only 1.5 laps remaining in this race, I'm not sure there's enough time for the Williams driver here, but there's still punctures yet to come, potentially punctures. Nicholas Longuet is keeping Jarno Watmir behind. Jarno will know about the penalties, so he's probably not risking a whole lot to try and catch up with Nicholas. He's probably just making sure his tyres stay at an acceptable percentage. But nevertheless, it would be nice to see them battle for the race win. Imagine if Nicholas didn't have penalties right now. Imagine what a barnstorming finish to the race we'd be having. But alas, Nicholas has not been able to keep it clean. Far from it. 9 seconds of penalties for him means that he's likely to lose out to Geton and maybe even to Dario Yemulo as well.
I'm keeping an eye on Geton because he is losing tenths and tenths per corner to Alvaro Carreton. At the moment, Geton has 3 seconds of time penalties. So Alvaro Carreton on this final lap of the race just needs to gain 5 seconds. And to be honest, Jacob, I think that is very possible for the Spaniard.
In fact, he gained 4 tenths out of the final corner of the 26th lap. So it's only 7.6 that he has to gain on the final lap itself. And that just shows how much time he's able to get, particularly in the traction zones. It's those rear tyres that Geton is struggling with at this stage. Another traction zone, Alvaro pulls another few tenths on the Austrian up ahead. The Haas driver may still be able to hang on there in his grey car. We'll have to wait and see. He's really nursing the car right now. But at the moment, I don't think Alvaro's catching him quite quickly enough.
6.7 seconds, the gap from Geton to Alvaro Carreton. Dario picks up another time penalty. That means that Nicholas Longuet will hold on to P2 and Geton will actually jump ahead of Dario Yemulo as Geton has 6 seconds less time penalties than Dario Yemulo.
Yeah, Alvaro might be able to get him as well. It's currently 10.3 seconds between those two and a 9-second delta in terms of penalties. So Alvaro Carreton, if he has a really good final lap, which he's looking to do here, might be able to get up there with Dario Yemulo. All these drivers, very low ERS, very low fuel. They're pushing everything to the very end of this race. Jarno Watmir, though, no blinking fuel light, 50% left in the tank in terms of his ERS. He is not batting an eyelid here on this final lap of the race. As Nicholas Longuet, in his first race back in ORL, is going to round the final corner in the lead. He's going to cross the line in first, but he's going to be demoted well down as a result of his 9 seconds worth of penalties. Across the line he comes to take the checkered flag, but it is Jarno Watmir, of course, who else, who takes the race win. Dario Yemulo comes across, cannot displace Nicholas Longuet, nor can Geton, so Nicholas Longuet manages P2 at the end. Alvaro Carreton got so close to Dario Yemulo, but he wasn't quite close enough. Then it's Ben Sabuconi in 6th, Tomasz Poradzic getting 7th, Patrick Kruti in 8th, Pablo Hoglar managing a good performance down in 9th, and Daniele Haddad, after knocking off some of his front wing in the pit lane, finishes down in 10th.
Once again, Jacob, is another race where Danny Haddad loses part of his front wing. We saw it in Bahrain where he ran into the side of someone, and here in France he ran into the back of someone into the pits. Big shame for Danny Haddad, but there we go. Jarno Watmir with his 4th win on the trot and has all but secured the championship. One more win next week would wrap things up pretty much certainly for him.
Yeah, with Daniel Haddad only scoring 1 point, Patrick Kruti only scoring 4. Alvaro Carreton scored some, but not really enough to bring himself in contention with Jarno Watmir. It's another race that goes absolutely the Dutchman's way. And even after not participating in the first few races of the season, Jarno Watmir is running away with this one. And it just shows what an excellent driver he truly is. Nicholas Longuet had a great account to himself here. He was on pole for the medium tyre runners in qualifying, and he finished the race in first, but those time penalties were his Achilles heel. And he lost out to Jarno Watmir as a result of that. Geton, by the way, started in 2nd, but on a very compromised strategy, and made it work to finish on the podium in 3rd, his first podium of the season. Great result then from Geton. Dario Yemulo will finish in 4th from the very back of the grid. So again, great performance from the Alfa Romeo. I remember a similar comeback drive last time out in Belgium as well. So really good performance from everyone in the top 4. But once again, it's Jarno Watmir that proves himself just to be a class above.
And on that note, we're going to be heading into a short break. And when we're back, we'll be bringing you the post-race reactions and driver interviews. Stay tuned for more here at ORL.
All right, welcome back then, everybody. After a pretty mental race in France, we'll be here now to digest the race a bit and bring you some driver interviews from the stars out there on circuit as well. Right now, we've only got a couple of drivers here in the commentary box, but hopefully some more will join us. But we may as well start with those who are here, and I think we'll start with Alvaro Carreton, who has come to join us. Alvaro, can you hear me?
Yes, good night, everyone.
Indeed. Good day to you and good night to you as well. And yeah, how was that race from your perspective? Obviously, you made the call to go onto a second set of intermediate tires. Is that a call you'd make again?
Yes, because I was battling so hard with Getounet and Dario, and I had a puncture quite recently, and I didn't want it to repeat again.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought someone in the top four was going to get a puncture, but finally they didn't. Which is a shame, but I feel quite bad to not get the podium.
Yeah, I know. And at the end as well, when you were trying to get within range of the time penalties as well, it was a bit of a moving goalpost with Dario Imulo picking up a 3-second time penalty right at the end of the race as well. Do you feel that you could and should have been able to get within those penalty ranges there?
To be honest, when I pitted, I wasn't thinking about that because I didn't think I could close the gap that much, but then I realized that I should be pushing more. But as well, I had to take it safe because I was only one warning from getting 3 seconds, so it was hard, but yeah, it was a shame.
Indeed, but nevertheless, a very good performance and a very good stint there on that second set of intermediate tires to come home in 5th. And also, I just want to ask you a bit about qualifying as well. So you qualified. Correct me if I'm wrong, in 12th on soft tires. I assume you were aiming to try and get 11th, is that right?
Yeah, the qualifying was quite good, but the mistake was that some people qualified on mediums and were starting P6, P7, P8, so I should have tried with the medium. I didn't think it was possible to be up there, but finally times were really slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just too many drivers trying to do the same thing as you or trying to go on the mediums as well. So, I mean, do you think you could have been up there with the medium guys, or do you just think that was you need to do the practice on the mediums to be able to be at that stage? Or
No. I plan to qualify on mediums, so I should have been up there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions from me. So thank you for talking to me.
Cheers.
I think we've got Patrick Kuti next joining us. Patrick, a P8 coming through from you. You've sadly lost the, I believe you've lost your P2 spot in the championship to Alvaro, but the track conditions look really tricky out there today.
Yeah, I mean, it's still better to finish in the points. Starting from P19, it's very good points, but yeah, it was not ideal. The qualifying should have been way better. Yeah, it was just a mess with the strategy. And the thing is that I invalidated the lap on my out lap in the first corner. Like I invalidated on this. It was it got to the next lap. It went to the next lap. So it's crazy. Yeah, I couldn't explain that. So I invalidated on my out lap on the the first corner, and it was invalidated the next lap. So yeah, I was trying to make a P11 and yeah, just didn't make it. Yeah, the conditions were tricky, but I really felt comfortable. And yeah, luckily I got through the cars because at the beginning of the race I was still P19, 18, and the rain just helped me a lot to get through and finish P8, which is still a bit disappointing because I thought the guys in front will have a punctures or something, but it didn't happen. So lucky them. But yeah, anyway, it's good to finish in points.
One thing that I do want to ask is, you did start towards the back because of that invalidation. That sounds very unfortunate, to say the least. Knowing now, when the rain came down, if you could go back, would you start on the soft tires or would you still start on the mediums?
I think still on the mediums. Yeah, the drop off was very massive. I mean, if I could finish in the top 3 in quali, you mean like if I could finish my lap in quali? Is what you mean?
I was saying just if you could,
on soft.
yeah, if you were still starting P19.
No, definitely not. I would prefer to start on mediums, so that was a better strategy to do. So definitely, yeah.
Well, Patrick, congrats anyway on a great recovery drive up to PA and bringing some points back in the championship, and best of luck next time out in Silverstone.
All right, thanks.
All right. Next, I think we'll talk to Tianyu Tang next, I think, because he's been waiting here in the commentary box for a little while. So, hi, Tianyu. How you doing?
Hi. Very nervous race. I got ruined. Not doing well in the qualifying because I misjudged Alvaro was on the flying lap, and I just let him pass and just can't get the last lap in time and just maybe lose potential maybe 12 or 13 on the grid and make my race very, very, very difficult. And I think my first thing of the intermediate tire was pretty good. I can stay at the point. I can catch the pace of Tomac, but my second thing though, my intermediate was just rubbish, and I got so much understeer, and I can't race with these tires.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some points in the race where it was looking really pretty good for you. You were up there in, what, about P8 at one point? There was one lovely moment where you got up the inside of both Zones and Tomek when they were battling. And how was that from your side?
Yeah, that was just catch opportunity because I found the Tomek and maybe AlphaTauri, I think. They are just battling each other, and I found the room to get into inside at maybe turn 7, I think, maybe, or turn 6, and just to get past both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lovely opportunistic move, and then, yeah, I mean, in the end, are you basically pretty happy with the performance? Obviously, you mentioned you weren't really happy with that final stint. Is there did you have a target set for yourself for the race where you think you could have got to?
I think during my practice, I think my race pace is pretty good. I think I can get a point, but since the result of the qualifying, I really feel disappointed because I still got maybe 28.2 in my hand, but I can't just put my lap. And then from the first stint of the intermediate tires, I found my pace is really good. I think I can hold the point, but yeah, when I changed my second intermediate tire, the understeer made me really annoying, and I just get so much penalty during my second stint. I found my race was over.
Yeah, indeed. Well, commiserations though, and thank you very much for coming to talk to us.
Now, I was going to jump to Nicholas, but Jano popped in a little bit like he popped ahead of Nicholas in the race. We'll get onto that in a bit. But Jano, congrats on another victory. Jumping straight on into the race, you kind of just bided your time behind Nicholas and then pulled the trigger.
Well, I actually never pulled the trigger as I didn't really have to. Obviously, nowadays we can see the penalties on the screen or in the HUD. So yeah, I knew Nicholas had a 9-second time penalty, and then with the tires being a little bit tricky, I felt like it wasn't really worth it to try and get past him. So yeah, I chose a little bit the safe road. Tire-wise, I didn't really want to pull the trigger or push or anything. Didn't want to take any risk with punctures or anything. So I decided to stay behind pretty much.
I was going to say, Yano, I think you need to go and speak to the F1 game developers as well to put the Mercedes pit box at the end of the pit lane, because this seems to be a kind of common occurrence where you come into the pits in the lead and then you come out a couple of positions behind. And for myself, Jacob, and for our viewers, it leads to some great spectacles seeing you try to come back through the field. But for you, I'm guessing it must be very frustrating.
I mean, it's not even like really the location of the pit boxes as Tomac, I think, got held for like 10 seconds, if I'm correct, unless he had damage or something. But yeah, I think Tomac literally dropped really, really far down the fields. But the problem is that maybe not even getting held, but the fact that some people just randomly drive out of their box straight into other people and ghost, and then the other person is getting held for 5-6 seconds waiting for a gap. So it's, first of all, well, I think not really fair that some people or that you get held based on where other people are, as in real life the gaps are much bigger. But then the real problem is that some people just get released straight into another car, and some people are stuck in their pit box for 5-6 seconds. So yeah, I think that's the real issue. But yeah, they fixed it for F1 Esports, but I think they just can't be bothered to do it in the actual game.
Going back to the race, obviously Nicholas did have time penalties. If he didn't have those penalties, do you think you could have caught up to him? Because myself and Jacob did notice that at the start of your stint, you were being very, very easy on your tires.
Yeah, I felt like if I was gonna make a move, it had to be later on in the race, and I already felt like straight away when I went out that tire wear was gonna be a little bit tricky towards the end. I think in the end it was not that tricky because at some point it was raining very, very hard, which made the tires go a little bit longer than expected. But yeah, in the end, I think Nicolas was a bit tricky. I was in like 75%, so just about head into the danger zone pretty much. But yeah, I think the heavy rain eased it off a little bit. But yeah, I decided to just save tires really early on, so less risk to get a puncture.
Well, Jana, congrats on another win, and there is a possibility that you could be wrapping up the title next time out in UK. Do you think you can pull it off, or are we going to have to wait until Monza?
Yeah, I'm a bit lucky that Alvaro's, I think, finished 5th, so didn't get great points today. Well, I've been on quite a winning streak, so that helps with the points as well, of course. But yeah, Silverstone short, it's going to be new for everyone. I think no one really has done a league race around there, so that's going to be quite interesting, I think so.
Well, Jana, best of luck next time out, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so a couple of drivers now left for us to interview. Now, I'm afraid I can't remember which order people joined, so I guess we'll just have to go with... let's go with Nicholas for this one, given that he finished ahead on the circuit. And hello, Nicholas, how you doing?
Hello, guys. I'm all good, and you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good. Great race, very, very fun to watch. Yeah, first of all, talk us through qualifying, because... From where we were sitting, it seemed like you were basically on pole, considering everyone ahead of you was on soft.
Right. I saw at the beginning of the quali that it was going to rain mid-race, so I thought to myself, well, I'd rather not risk having to pit once more to go to the wet period, so I'm just going to start on mediums, and I saw some people follow me, some others didn't, or not me, but followed the same idea. And I managed to get a good lap in and put it in front of the mediums runners, so that was good.
Yeah, indeed, it was a very good position to be in at the start of the race. And then when it came to the actual race itself, obviously, was it Tomac that was behind you, and he got passed by Jarno. Having Jarno behind you in the race, I felt like maybe sometimes it seemed like he was putting you under quite a lot of pressure. Were you feeling under pressure in that opening stint?
I mean, the main focus at the beginning wasn't really Jarno behind. It was mostly trying to keep up the DRS with the soft runners. I think that was the main priority for both of us. But I didn't really mind if he was going to overtake me straight away. But then I saw that he just wanted to be ahead of me during that stint, so I didn't fight it too hard. I knew he had a better pace anyways, so I just tried to stay behind, save some ERS, and try to win. after on the intermediates, but I just wasn't focused, I guess, and I got very little mistakes on some laps and got some warnings. I know like one penalty was because of a collision I had, so I had to like cut the corner, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. I still got P2, so and those 6 seconds it's still my fault. So I totally deserved them. Next time I just have to stay more within the track limits, and that's the lesson from today.
Fair enough. It's always good to make sure you're still learning lessons, even when you're at the level you're at, I suppose. So definitely the right attitude to have. And yeah, also then thinking about the intermediate tires as well. When you got onto those inters, there was a period where yourself and Alessio, you were both driving away from Jarno Opmeer. Were you always thinking, okay, well, Jarno's holding onto the tires? Were you holding onto your tires at that stage, or were you just sort of pushing, thinking they would get it to the end?
I mean, I knew he was saving, but so was I kind of. I mean, I wasn't really like pushing to the max. I mean, I felt really good in the wet because I don't know, the setup fit the wet as well, so I felt pretty fast there. But then I saw, oh yeah, I did create a bit of a gap behind. I think I was pushing a little bit more, but then yeah, as Jarno said, I saw the tire wear was gonna get tricky, so I backed off a lot. I just try to make sure to end the race, and he said he was around 75, and since I pushed a bit more at the beginning, I was around 80. So yeah, that's the difference there. I mean, I took a little bit of a bigger risk than him, let's say.
But nevertheless, in your first race back in ORL for a while, crossing the line in first and taking second once all the penalties were factored in, a very great achievement. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us for the interview.
Thank you very much, guys.
Right, next we have Ghetto, and Nicholas was talking about how he wanted to go for the mediums because he saw the rain was coming down. But Ghetto, you and Felipe, you pulled off the 200 IQ strat. You went on the softs. You got the front row lockout for Haas and Shizu. And I want to ask, what was the call in the pit stop? Were you and Felipe in comms, or did you want to double stack from the get-go, or what was the ideas?
Yeah, basically when we saw it was raining in the race, we were like, yo, everyone is probably trying to get P11, and it's probably useless if we then start inside the top 10 anyways, like in China. And then we just decided to just do our normal qualifying as usual. I mean, the quality times weren't really fast, but I mean, it was still P1, P2. And we just thought, yo, we don't really care. We just stretch this off as far as they can go till the rain comes, even if we have to pit for another set of softs if we get a puncture. But we just wanted to risk it and stay out, because there was not really anything we could do anyways. So yeah.
In the end, it seems like the lap that you two pitted was 1 lap too early for the intermediate tires. What was the, did you just pit that 1 lap earlier because you thought, okay, my softs are dying now, so it's just better to get on the intermediates now rather than risking another lap on the softs?
Yeah, exactly. We just said we don't want to risk anything now because now it's really raining. Let's just double stack, even if Felipe loses some places. Because actually he was ahead of me, but then he got a disconnect on the straights, and yeah, then he was behind me for by 2 seconds or so. So he could be in my place right now, and I would be P, I don't know, 15 or so. So yeah, I just got pretty lucky, I have to say. I also I risked it to stay out on the intermediates, and not do another stop. Yeah, and I had 96% at the end, something like that. So basically nothing really special in terms of pace, just pure luck, and yeah, the risk paid off.
Well, I mean, you say nothing special in terms of pace. Either way, you were kind of keeping up or not falling too far back from Jarno and Nicholas. One thing that I do want to ask is, on those last 2 laps, you were losing a whole heap of time to Alvaro. How cautiously were you taking those last 2 laps?
Yeah, very. I mean, now I knew that I will be ahead of him anyways, but I was a little bit scared that I will finish behind Dario. But in the end, I think he got another 3-second penalty. Then I was driving so cautiously, yeah, that I'm not getting a puncture, because that would be so unnecessary. So yeah.
Well, either way, it's your first podium of the season, and a lot of points going towards you in the championship. Silverstone, Monza, and Bahrain to round out the season. Can we expect to see you being in the top 5, or dare we hope for another podium?
I mean, it will be really exciting to see how Britain short goes. Will be very interesting. If you can maybe like run a different setup compared to the others, like really low wings, and yeah, maybe it works out. I don't know. Will be interesting to see. So I think on the short tracks, everything is pretty much possible. But Monza, not a really good track for me, I have to say. But usually on the tracks I'm not that good at, I'm better in qualifying because I just have zero expectations. So maybe that's a good point for me. And I think Bahrain in the end, that's quite a good track for me, I think. So yeah, let's see.
Well, Gaon, congrats on your podium, and thank you again for joining us for an interview.
Thank you very much. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, Jacob, that wraps up round 9 of the championship, and well, as usual, when rain comes down, it really does add to excitement in the unpredictable conditions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a really, really fun race, especially when the rain first started coming down. Even before the rain came down, qualifying was nuts. The beginning of the race was still nuts before the rain started coming. It just made it even, it completely ignited it at that stage. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that race.
Well, ladies and gents, you can stay up to date with everything ORL related on Twitter at team_ORL. I've been Yusuf Milky Serial Vidsel. You can catch me on Twitter at Milky073, and I've been joined by the wonderful Jacob Alada Hancock. You can catch him on Twitter at jhancockscaster. We'll see you next week for Silverstone Short. Make sure to tune in Sunday evening, 7:30 p.m. UK time for the start of the stream. From myself and from Jacob, stay fast. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.